for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Kristina Stanley. I'm the CEO and founder of Fictionary. With me is Lucy Cook. She is our head of community and training, so you're probably very familiar with her more so than me. I started Fictionary from absolutely nothing to what it is today. I did the first little bit of coding, quickly realized that maybe I should hire real coders for that and not just me. So we moved on to do that, and it's just kind of grown over the last few years. And in the last year, of course, we've taken up our AI commitment. And I wanted to just talk about this a little bit before I go in and talk about the features that we've just added that are super exciting. And I'm going to show you how to really utilize them on a few scenes. So our philosophy with AI is one, we never touch your manuscript. So we want the artist to own their art. We don't have anything to do with that. So you write it how you want to write it. What we're using AI for is to help you evaluate it and see your manuscript through the computer's eyes, basically. It's always helpful to have human eyes, and we have editors and we love that too. But this gives you a way that you can see your own novel. And that's our goal with AI. We don't use it to train. I'm an author myself. I fully understand what copyright means to an author, and I don't want my manuscript used for training. And so we don't do that. So we're trying to provide a very safe environment for people to experiment with AI on evaluating and editing their manuscript. So that's our philosophy there. I'm going to share my screen and go right into the app. So Lucy, just nod if you see my Fictionary bookshelf. Okay, so we're going to look the other way today. So I'm on my bookshelf here, and I'm just clicking my little pencil so we can access that manuscript. And so the first thing I want to point out, when you're in story structure at this level, if you name all of your scenes over here, what that does is it names every single scene in your novel. So if you've already named a bunch, you probably don't want to start with this step. If you haven't named any, I love to start with this step, because then you see what AI is actually naming your scenes. And sometimes you think, wow, that's not at all what I intended. And then you think, wow, because that's not the scene I wrote. So it's quite interesting when it comes up with that. But what we want to look at today, so I just clicked over to the Evaluate page, and we're going to click to Just Ask Fictionary. So scene overview was already there, where you get your scene name, your word count, it pulls out your point of view character. So one thing I want to say to everybody, up here under the journey, you have your cast of characters. The AI seems to work better if that's sorted out and you don't have, 3 different spellings of jazz, or you don't have, like Jasmine, jazz, jazzy, or you've got, first name, last name, like Jake Hunter and Jake as 2 different characters listed, merge them. So if you do your character work first, this is way more consistent and it's just better. So that's just a little tip on how to use this. So we're going to look the other way, which some of you are familiar with either from certification or the romance class. And we're going to look at Just Ask Fictionary, which is just up here. So if you click here and do any of these buttons, this is where we're using AI to come up with answers. Everywhere else in the app is proprietary Fictionary software. So for example, drawing of the story arc, that's our software. That doesn't go into AI. And so as an author, if you don't want to use AI, just don't use Just Ask Fictionary. If you do want to use it, it's here. You may want to use it for one manuscript, for not for another. Whatever it is that works for you is fantastic. So we've got tension and conflict. We did a bit of work on what if goal fails. So you might notice some difference here, that it's a little bit better on pulling out the goal. And that's our engineers doing prompt engineering to try and get it better all the time. It's also, we use Google Gemini for our AI, and they are constantly upgrading their software as well. So these will change. And then the biggie that we did is scene structure. So first off, we came up a long time ago, the manual way to do scene structure, and Lucy and I did this together basically when we were first teaching our classes in the community. And then we're going along, what we're doing, if we go over to the journey, we're going along this journey. We've got the point of view, we've got tension and conflict. So we just did scene structure, so you can see all of it is automated up to here. So you can probably guess where we're going next. I don't have to be explicit here, but we thought we'll take you through the journey. So we are on the first scene of evolution. And so you can see, so I've done this here so you don't have to watch me hit the button and go through it. So if we look at the scene structure, fired on probation, no raise, no future. That's summarizing the scene. You may choose to have something different for your name, totally up to you, because this is your after draft outline of how you want to see your novel. I'm kind of happy with that because I think, yeah, she is on probation, got fired. She was expecting a raise and didn't get one. She's totally worried about her future. So you think, okay, pretty happy with that. That summarized my scene for me. I know what it is. Here it gets interesting. So pulled out the entry hook. Why did Veronica hire Shannon? So my intent as an entry hook is, why did she fire her? Which is the opposite of this. Because in the scene, Shannon's actually trying to figure out, why is she being fired? She doesn't get it. She thinks she's getting a raise. And so it's an interesting perspective on my story. I'm kind of happy with my opening line. I don't really want to change it. And as the artist, that's my choice. I think this is pulling out the meaning for me close enough. Her goal is she wants to keep her job at the Kingston Kernel. That is dead on. That's her goal of this scene. She gets the first line, we're letting you go, and she doesn't want to be fired. So that's really nice. The scene middle, Shannon's job security crumbles, forcing her to confront her future and her relationship. So if I just scroll down to the middle, right here is where she's surprised. Like, how long have you known this? So she goes from the first half of the scene here to kind of fighting it to accepting it. And that's the middle turning point for her. So even though AI put it in a little bit different words, to me, it's pulling out, that's fine. I'm happy with my middle point. The next one is the scene climax. Shannon is fired, jeopardizing her future and relationship. And so we go down here, and she's really kind of really fired throughout here. And so the things I want to point out here that are a bit muddled in the scene, if we go down here first, why did Veronica change her mind about Shannon? That's really way up here. So AI is pulling out my exit hook. This could have been the end of the scene. Now we just get into some kind of mulling around about why it's difficult for Shannon and stuff. And my intent for as an exit hook was her back at Veronica. And so what I would do with this, it's having a bit of trouble here. It's not bad. Like, this is true. She is fired, jeopardizing her future. And but the exit hook is not really, why did Veronica change her mind? It should be, what is Shannon going to do now? She's just lost her job. She's got a mortgage. She's got a fiance who makes no money. They just put an offer on a house. All these things are happening. So I don't think that I made a clear enough exit hook. And so for me, this is telling me I'm going to revise the scene ending and clean this up to how I want it to be as an author. So I'm going to stop there for a second and just see if anybody has any questions. I see Lucy smiling at me because she's like showing all this stuff that's wrong. And not wrong. I mean, that's not the right way to put it, but it's, it's objective insight into a manuscript that I wrote. And so Lucy and I were talking a little bit earlier today, and one of the things, even when feedback comes from AI, there's a resistance to accepting it. And so give yourself time to think about it, mull it over. Don't feel like you have to, now I just have to fix this. And my plan would be, I'm going to go through the whole thing and then figure out what I'm going to fix and what I think is meaningful for my story, because I'm the artist. I get to decide. Michelle, go ahead. I see you have a raised hand.
Yeah, so my question is, I see how this works from a writer's perspective, but when you put your editing hat on, how do you maintain your editorial integrity along with what AI is bringing up?
Yeah, so Michelle, that's a great question. And you have two ways of doing that. You can not use AI first on a scene and give your own impression of the scene. You can read the scene and then see what AI says, and you may or may not agree with it. So you can then overwrite this with what you see, right? So it can either be used as a way to reinforce what you're saying or have you as an editor double check, like, I thought I saw something else in this scene, right? And then when you're giving feedback to the writer, you know, they're, even though the AI is here, they're expecting feedback from a human and not from AI. So it's really just helping you um, sort of either reinforce or double check your work, but it shouldn't be used as you've just run AI because the writer can just do that and see it. And it's your job as an editor to interpret it, be sure it's correct. Because some of this, as I go through it in my own book, you think, nope, I like it the way I like it, and I think it's right. And you know, your human knowledge is always going to be there.
Right. So when you're giving this feedback to the writer, because they may have already gone through and ran the AI portion, and it's like, well, you're saying this and AI saying that. Would that be where the editor would say something to the effect of, while AI saw it this way,
Hmm.
as an editor, I saw it this way, but it's still up to you as the writer.
Yep, absolutely. And
Okay.
if there is something glaringly different, it's a great thing to point out because most likely, especially fictionary customers for editing, they've done this on their own manuscript. And now they're looking for more from you than what they could do on their own. Now, I would suspect when you do this on your own manuscript, they're going to edit it themselves and revise before handing it over to an editor. So the answers will probably be different anyway, but it's certainly, you got to think about it now.
Thank you for answering that question, Kristina.
You're welcome. Alice says, I looked at the first scene this morning with this and my hooks are everywhere. Where they shouldn't be. Yep, I got the same problem too. So we can commiserate about that one. Can you rewrite where the AI is on the right of the page? So AI is over here. If you're on the evaluate page at the top, not visualize, evaluate, then you've got character, plot, setting, notes, and then just Ask Fictionary. So if I went to setting, nothing there because I haven't done anything. I'm just doing the just Ask Fictionary, and then here, scene overview, tension, conflict, scene structure. And so that gives us a look at another scene. So let's go and look at scene 2 and see how we did there. So this scene name is Fired, Ant Sailing, City Escape. So it's pretty accurate. Now this scene has pulled out lots of issues for me. So we'll start with the entry hook. What is Lance's reaction to Shannon's job loss? Sure. That comes way down here. We're past the middle plot point. So, okay. That gives me my first thing of, and it really should be close to the exit out of the first scene should be written that she's really worried about what he's going to say. She's super stressed about it. So then you lead into this scene and it's buried down here. So you think, okay, I'll just hold on to that for a second. Then Shannon wants comfort and support from her aunt. Well, let's face it, that's what the scene is showing, but really, is that an interesting goal? Like, do you want to read that? Maybe not. So you look at this and think her goal really should be to talk with her aunt about how she's going to solve this problem she's just been given in the previous scene, not just get comfort. Well, that's very nice. You can tell I liked my character Shannon, so I wanted her to have an aunt that's really nice to her, and I'm super biased and think I'm a fabulous aunt to my nieces and nephews, and so of course your aunt's going to be there for you, but it's not very exciting. The scene middle, Shannon's job loss triggers a shift in the relationship with her aunt. And that is true for the scene middle. So it's pulled that out. In the beginning, she's talking to her aunt about she's bought the sailboat, she's going sailing in the Bahamas. This is crucial information for the story, but really kind of like writing half a scene in backstory. And then the scene middle, it starts going. So the first half of the scene is all happy, talking about going on this boat. Then there's a turning point of what happened, and then it triggers. A better way to start this scene might be the other way around, where you've got the emotional intensity at the beginning and then trickle through. You can have the aunt distracted that she's trying to tell her, I just bought this boat, I gotta go, but I can talk to you a bit. And you could make it a really tense conversation with conflict because one's trying to get off the phone and one's trying to talk about this thing that's happened. the scene climax, Shannon gets fired and her aunt invites her to spend the weekend. So here it's pulled out, she's been fired again, but that's okay. You can just ignore some of the things that gets repetitive in AI. The real thing is her aunt invites her to spend the weekend. So that's at the very end. That's the last line in the scene. And it's not a bad actual ending for this scene because she's avoiding telling Lance. And that's really what she has to do. But she's, I'm going to put that off. I don't want to do it. So you think, okay, I'm happy with that for a climax. And what will Lance say about Shannon's job loss? So that's up here. So the exit hook and the climax are not quite in the right order. And then so for me, I have to decide, does that work? Like, is there enough in the scene that the reader is worried about, well, how's she going to tell Lance? Because that's what I want the next worry to be. Or do I need to shift this around a little bit to flip the two? And that just becomes an artistic decision. It doesn't mean that everything that's shown by AI or the order, because quite often the exit hook is a little before the climax of the scene, and that's okay. Works, and you'll see lots of books that do that. We're more concerned that those functions in the scene are there, more so than sometimes the exit and the climax are the same line, which is also okay. That's fine. We're at scene level. We're not at story level where we need a resolution. We want things to be open so that you read and turn to the next page. So I really want to stress that AI should be making you think about your scene and decide what you want to do with it. Don't blindly just go, oh, I have to move this exit hook because it's in the wrong place. Now it's a fairly short scene. The shorter the scene, a little bit more leeway that you have. The longer the scene, you want to be more careful. So say it was a 2,000 word scene, you don't want your exit hook at 1,500 words. That's 500 more words to read. So you can look at the length of the scene as well when your entry and exit hooks aren't quite in the right place, or the point of view goal is another one that sometimes comes too late in the scene. So if you combine it with scene length and where it is in the scene, it'll help you assess whether you need to actually move that or not. Okay, so I will stop there. Lisa says, the name my scene feature is used on all scenes at once. What will that be an option for tension and conflict and scene structure too? So it analyzes the whole book. For now, we decided not to do that. And the reason is many of our subscribers right now are well into an edit. And when you overwrite the whole scene, everything is gone. And it's a big loss for the author. And so we're just going to sit and watch it for a while and see what everybody else out here in the audience wants. Should we be doing that or not doing it? We've made lots of these decisions as we go through, and we want to keep your work safe. And I know how hard it is to fill out those story elements and then they're gone, and that's not really a great feeling. So we have Adrian's laughing. She's like, yeah, I know. It's like, you just don't want to do that. So right now we're just waiting on that one to see what people really want and how people use this. And we get a lot of feedback through the community, which is fantastic. That really helps us decide what we should be doing or not doing. So anybody have any questions about that scene? I didn't mean rewrite, just the evaluate. Yeah, and Lisa, that's what I mean. So if you have filled out, so if we look at tension and conflict, so if you filled a whole bunch of these out and then click the tension and conflict, the AI overwrites it. And so your words are gone and you can't get them back. So we're a bit worried about all the work, not the actual touching of the scenes, but just the actual looking here. Liz, did you suggest to remove all the name scenes and let AI do that? It's totally up to you on naming scenes. So you can, here, when you name your scene, it'll do it scene by scene. If you want to do all the scenes, so if you're pulling in a new manuscript and haven't named a bunch of them, then you go to Journey, and on the Journey, you hit your story structure and you hit name scenes, and it names all of the scenes for you. And I think that was the question. And then when you do this, so when AI is filling these out for you, if we go to the story map, we can look at now scene structure, and you can see the scenes that I have done. Lucy's got her pom-poms out. Yay. So you can look through the scene name, what's the hook, what's the goal, scene middle, scene climax, and just read them all together, one down the next, and see if that makes sense for you as flow of your story. And then you keep working through your scenes. And the other thing you can do is you can put notes over here of what you're thinking about when you're reading the feedback from Just Ask Fictionary. And that gives you time. I like to do that because that gives me time to really, okay, this is what the feedback means. And then think about, well, what do I want to do with this scene? And, it's pretty fabulous that there's stuff there. You think, okay, these things I can rewrite and fix and just make it a stronger scene. You can also, when you're writing a new novel, of course, is you write a scene and run it through here. And it's so fun because then you think, okay, I can do this quickly. I'm fresh in the scene. I've just written it. Now I'm going to revise it right away. So, up to you as the artist. Again, you work in your order. Some people do each scene at a time. Some people rip out a draft and then go back and edit the whole thing. It's, whatever works for you. As the artist, like it has to be your flow and it should be fun for you. So I will do just quickly one more scene. So this is the third scene in the book. We're on scene structure. So betrayal, heartbreak, and a new beginning. So the entry hook, why did Shannon leave for Toronto? Which AI is pulling this out on a scene by scene basis. It's not looking at the previous scenes, right? So here, yep, that's definitely the entry hook. The reader will know that from the previous scene that exactly why she left for Toronto. So you may or may not want to put something a little different in there. And off she goes, da da da. And then she arrives. She comes back because her aunt cancels the trip. So her goal, she's just trying to escape for the weekend. And that's all she's doing. She's avoiding conflict. Okay, fair enough. Scene middle, she discovers Lance is cheating on her with her boss who just fired her. So the whole thing explodes. He's not very nice. He's not kind. We don't like him. We let him come back a little bit later in the book, but not for long because we don't like him. He was mean to Shannon. So this is right in the middle. She goes, her trip gets canceled, she comes back and boom, she gets nailed by this. And then the scene climax, it pulls out cheating, leading her to leave him and book a flight. So the cheating is already there. We know this in the middle. And then Michelle says, Lance the loser. Yeah, I named him that. So the climax is she's leaving. And now if we look at this, Shannon booked a morning flight to Fort Lauderdale. Yep, that's the scene climax. The exit hook is what she will do with her belongings. Well, no, that's really boring. Okay, no. So that means two things here. One, after she's booked her flight, when I read through all of this is all things that should have been trickled out previous in the scene. So the final thing she does is book her flights. And the exit hook is really what's she going to do with her life now? She's just lost her job. She's lost her fiance. She's lost her home. So she's going to go visit her aunt in Fort Lauderdale. It's kind of her temporary solution. All of this is way too late in the scene. So it just needs to be, it can be in there, but not where it is in the scene. It just doesn't make sense. And this scene is getting a little longer. It's 1,200 words. And I got a lot of words down that I'm going to go through. Well, if I ever rewrote this book, I would go through this and trickle it through. So it's with the action that she's having thoughts and it's, all this stuff. And it's important. Her brother Charlie is important to the story. But when you read it here, it looks like it's just sort of thrown out there. Like, what is this thing? It doesn't fit anywhere in there. There needs to be something in the scene that triggers her to think about Charlie, not just, should I call my brother or not? Because she's just been traumatized. Highly likely she's not just randomly going to think about calling her brother. Maybe that doesn't even need to be in this scene. This should be about the trauma of finding her boss and her husband together, not about, I should call my brother. So there's many things in here that the AI has just pulled out for me and you think, okay, so I have lots of action items. Liz says, so good. Can't wait to reorganize my chapter scenes. I know, that's the thing. It's really fun. So what I want to caution you about is don't get caught on one scene. You've got your whole novel to do, and it's a lot. And you might even see patterns on your own writing that, I tend to front end scenes with too much stuff. Lucy tends to back end scenes with too much stuff. So, the two of us have been playing all week with this, and it's really showing us our writing habits. So not only do we have writing habits in text, how we write our prose, which are speech habits that show up over and over again, we've got writing habits on how we structure our scenes, which is a really interesting thing that came out of all of this. You think, oh, look at that. And now I know going forward, I'll never do that again. That's just fixed for me. It's done. And so hopefully all of you find things in your own writing that you can fix and make it better.